The Republican-led House cleared legislation that claws back about $9 billion from the federal budget, including funds for public broadcasting. The cuts were initially sought by the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. The DOGE spending cuts were passed under an obscure and rarely used budget law that prevented a Senate filibuster. It cancels $9 billion in federal funding previously approved by Congress. $1.1 billion will be stripped from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which helps fund NPR and PBS.
And to talk more about the impacts these cuts will have on our community is Mary Olson, General Manager of KCLU, a local NPR station. Thank you so much for joining us.
Mary, thank you for joining us. You said that you got word last night following the vote. Where will you turn to now for the funding?
Well, we're facing a historic and kind of a dark day for public media in our country. And what we're going to do at KCLU is we're going to turn to our listeners, to the wonderful residents throughout the Tri-Counties that we serve. $300,000 is now gone immediately from our budget. So that's quite a shortfall. But I have every confidence that our listeners are going to come through for us, and we are operating under the premise, effective immediately, that it's going to be okay, that we are going to explain the situation to our wonderful listeners, and that they are going to do what they have always done, and they're going to step up, and they're going to let their voice be heard, and they're going to say, this is something I believe in. Local news is important. As you guys know, newsrooms are dying across the United States. Local news is critical. So the last thing we need to do is think about cutting services or cutting back. And my commitment, Beth and CJ, is that no one is going to lose their job. No programs are going to be cut. And we are deeply committed, as we always have been, to serving residents throughout the Tri-Counties. And that's what we're going to continue to do. We're going to find a way and move through this together.
Well, you just kind of answered one of my questions was, will your programming change at all for local listeners? It sounds like you're going to try and go, just continue on, keep it on, right?
We're going to keep, I love that. We're going to keep on keeping on. Okay, absolutely. Good. The last thing we want to do is change programming that people rely on. You know, you guys are amazing, and you are our source for local news. And I'd like to think that KCLU is that source on the radio as well. And we're committed to continuing to produce award-winning local news.
I like that. We're going to have some new bumper stickers, right? Printed up, keep on, keep it on. So talking about the fact that you're not going to be cutting staff, that anything along those lines, no programs, but we are able to listen to KCLU from San Luis Obispo County, north in Santa Margarita, all the way down to Agoura Hills in Ventura County. Will the cuts impact your coverage area, do you think?
No, we're not going to let that happen. We have an amazing news department headed up by Lance Orozco, Caroline Faraday, and they are burning up, the 101, and they are traveling every place you just mentioned at all points in between getting local news. And we're going to continue that coverage. Already today, I've been consoling general managers across the country that they're having to lay off staff, and they've already announced programming changes. We're not going to do that. Yes, it's about 12% of our budget, but we have colleagues that have lost over 50% of their budget. So we're going to just buck up. We're going to find a way. We're going to keep on keeping on. Thank you for that, CJ. That should be our new motto now. And we're going to continue to serve the Tri-Counties as we have for the last 30 years.
All right, Mary Olson, General Manager at KCLU. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, guys. Yeah. Thanks.